monthly Kern Valley Healthcare District Board of Directors meeting to order at 6 o'clock. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Director Cassis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Item 1 is the flag salute. Director Parks will lead us in the flag salute this evening, and the flag is over here in the corner.
Place your hand on your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for those that wish to remain standing, our CFO, Chet Beadle, will lead us in the invocation.
Our righteous eternal Father in heaven, we pause this evening in the capacity of this monthly regular board meeting of the Kern Valley Healthcare District to invoke thy blessing upon us and to gather together to discuss the issues and the situation with this district. We ask you to bless us this evening, that our hearts and our minds might be open to thy will, that we might be able to understand and together synergize the effect of healthcare for those visitors and residents of the Kern River Valley. We ask thee, Father, to help us to have all the information that we need, help us to have those caring hands and staff that we need to do the best to the benefit of all those who seek our care. Help us always to dedicate our time and talents unto thee. And this we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chet. Item 3 is our mission statement, and Director Bush will read the mission statement this evening.
Our mission statement: we will provide high-quality, efficient patient care services that respond to community and provider needs. We will provide leadership in health promotion and education for our patients, residents, medical staff, employees, and community throughout the district.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Item C is the appointment to fill the board vacancy, which was caused a couple months ago by the resignation of Sherry Montez. Before we get started, I just want to say that we had a lot of people out in the community apply for this position. I think 10. So it was a lot of applications and resumes to look over, and with advice from legal counsel, we tried to kind of narrow it down to a consensus of 3. Three candidates that the board thought would be well suited to serve on the board. So at this point, I'll kind of open it up for discussion, or if anybody wants to share.
What if we just spit out the 3 names? Is that what we do?
If you want to, or whichever one you...
Okay. I feel like that we should sort of go by the way the election was, and like example, Kay Knight's been for 18 years, and she's been an excellent board member. And she was behind Sherry by 700 points. She went out there, she put her money up, $500 to be in the election. And some of that stuff should count. So with that said, that's basically, I feel like we should consider some of those people that were in the elections, like Kathleen O'Connor and Kay. And there's some wonderful, Ross Perot over there. Man.
Elliot, you mean?
Oh, I know Ross Elliott. I got a joke once in a while. I mean, there's some awesome people to be on the board. I don't know any one of them that's on there that I would vote against. One guy on there is a little bit older than me, but that's, what the heck. He still would be a good candidate. So, but that's enough.
It's like what Reagan said, don't care about my opponent's age or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or his lack of experience or something.
Director Cassis, then we'll go to Director Bush if he has it.
I am very happy that there's so many people that applied. I think that keeping it in the community with people that live here and work here is is a wonderful idea, as with the same procedure as we vote, when we vote, I am going to nominate one candidate because there's one position open. So the candidate I'm going to nominate is Ross Elliott for office. And I love the fact that so many people applied, and they've definitely had wonderful qualifications.
Director Bush, did you have any?
No, I just want to say, I really look at this decision, first of all, tough, and I know it's always said, it was great that so many people applied to do this, but it always makes it tougher to make a decision. And I agree that there is nobody that applied that I would ever vote against. And as the Godfather said, it's not personal, it's business. But we are in the Wizard of Oz here, and I kind of look at, Gene's he's the Tin Man, I'm probably a scarecrow, and we have the Cowardly Lion. No, we don't have one of those. I think the objective of this board is, I like having a board together that has expertise in varying areas. If we all thought the same, as a rock band Savoy Brown once said, wouldn't it be a real drag if we were all the same? But we all do have different areas of expertise, and there were three people that I mentioned to our director, to our chair, that I thought were very, very qualified, and there was one in particular that I found would fill, considering what we're looking at in the near future that people may or may not be aware of, makes that person overqualified, very, very qualified to join this board and help us do the right thing for the community and for the district. And I put it in that order. We do the right thing for the community via the district, but I don't know that it's necessary to name names. Do we?
I'll give three names, and then I think
Well, no,
then whoever gets the most names out of that, then we vote on that one, right? Okay.
Is that my understanding,
I'm
Scott?
going to take it away from you. I'll do my three, and then you can do your three, so you can.
Yeah. So the suggestion of going with the three names was just if there was consensus on the board, if you found that everyone had selected the same three or same two names, then you could, scale back the discussion to just those candidates, since they were already favorites of the board members. If you don't have this type of consensus where there's common picks from the directors, then you can go through them one by one, but in the end it'll just simply be a director makes a motion and another director makes a second.
Okay.
Okay. Now you don't have my three. You want my three?
Yeah.
Kay Knight. There's no order, I guess. Kathleen O'Connor and Ross Brown.
Elliott. Okay. Director Bush, did you have?
Ross Elliott, Sherry Lanza, and actually Joe Cirillo I had on there. They're just three people that I am aware of their backgrounds. I'm aware of their strengths in their community involvement and what they do, and that's why those three stood out to me.
Okay. Barbara, did you have three?
I don't have three, I'm sorry,
You just have one?
just the one.
Okay. And my
One position, one vote.
and my three were Ross Elliott, Kay, and Fred Clark. So it sounds like the general consensus is Ross Elliott. Am I-
That's what it sounds like.
Okay. Do any of the sitting board members want to ask any of the candidates that are, even though Catherine is here, does anybody want to ask any of the applicants questions? before we do a motion.
I would like to say that first of all, you know, like I say, it's absolutely nothing personal, and you know, I wish I knew more about everybody. We did go through, I know I went through every letter of every resume and every application, and I asked people. I've always said, I am more than willing in my life to plead ignorance, I just won't plead stupidity. If somebody asks me something and I don't know, I say I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Or I'll steer you to somebody who knows more about that than I. So I have asked questions, and I just think it's because of the qualifications, my depth of knowledge, to their commitment, to their background and strength, that I came up with the three I did. That's all I can say.
I'm the opposite from you. I know everything. And so,
Well, you're the Tin Man.
it's just, I don't have a problem with the way it's going. I wanted to mention the names, and I think we should take a vote as far as I'm concerned. Right now, it seems unanimous.
Okay.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Okay, I make a motion, we nominate Fred Ross.
You're not going to get this
Elliot.
correct, are you?
Elliot, Ross Elliot. I'm trying to make a joke out of your name, I forgot it.
I thought we were going to paint trees there for a moment.
Okay. There's a
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved to appoint Ross Elliott, and it's been seconded by Director Parks, and it's been seconded by Director Bush. Is there any further discussion? Any questions you want to ask appointee Elliott before we take a vote and swear him in, or?
Has he still agreed to it?
I'm here.
He didn't show up. That's the first good sign.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, that has passed.
That was
And-
really simple.
Okay, at this time, Ross, if you'll come up and I'll do the swearing in of office. If you'll please raise your right hand and just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ross Elliott,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
that I will, can you repeat that, please?
Yes.
Well and faithfully,
Well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
I will do that.
Okay. I'm sworn in. You both do it. Sit up here.
Thanks, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to remind the other extremely qualified candidates that applied. There are going to be a couple positions that will be, you know, coming up in the 2020 election year, so please, you know, hang in there.
I could get thrown off.
Stay
the board,
involved.
too.
Stay involved.
Okay.
That, can I,
Yes.
is he gonna assume Sherry's committees? Is that,
Probably not. Well, I'll appoint him to whatever. Actually, Scott, do we have to do a new election with the new board member for officers and,
No, you don't.
okay. So he'll just,
You're fine as you are.
I'll discuss with Scott later. Okay. Where are we on the agenda? Item D? Item D is public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? Ms. Hess?
We have something special going on tonight during public comment, and I want to apologize to Cheryl because I kind of told you a little white lie to get you here. So if I could have Cheryl and housekeeping come up, please.
All of your housekeeping staff has got the certification of recognition and appreciation. You are our manager of the year. We love you, we appreciate you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Speech.
Speech.
And you're all fired.
I will say though that this was so easy for me to come into this because these people are wonderful. They're just wonderful people, all of them, the whole department. And I mean, they're just great. They're hardworking. They're so easy to get along with, and they just needed to know that. They just needed to be told that, and they get told that all the time now.
Everybody signed it and.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Debbie, for doing that, for
That was cool.
housekeeping. Is there any other public comment this evening before we move on? Okay. Item E is the consent agenda. There are 2 items on consent that we have to defer till next month, and that is on page 2, under medical appointment, Barry Amandi. Yeah, sorry. That radiology as well as medical reappointment for Dr. Gross. Both of those have to be pulled because of some things that went on in the medical quality committee. So those will be deferred until next month and they'll get approved next month. Is there a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the revised consent agenda
Okay,
with
so
those 2 items postponed till our next meet.
okay.
A second.
Been moved by Director Bush, it's been seconded by Director Cassis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay,
I don't have the background on it yet.
I understand.
Just agree with everything, Ross. Nod.
So the consent has passed with 1 abstention. Moving on to item F is the foundation report. Ms. Hess? Welcome.
Well, good evening. I just want to report to you that this past Saturday, we held a nonprofit volunteer expo. It was actually, I think it was pretty successful. We had about 28 or 29 organizations around the valley that participated. Our own Pink Ladies actually made the paper.
Nice.
So that's exciting, and I do know that a lot of them actually had people that signed up to know more about their organizations or volunteer, so that's good. Some of the other things we're getting ready to do with the foundation, obviously River Rhythms is just around the corner, and then our Crab Fest as well as our health fair. And then the only other thing I have is some information that's going to be going into the paper regarding the snake bites up here, the rattlesnakes. So I'm going to pass this out so you guys can see what we're doing. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Hess?
I love these guys.
Okay, hearing none, thank you, Debbie.
Can I make a
Oh,
comment?
yes, go ahead, Dr. Jean.
You're doing an awesome job of like those events you put on. A lot of people, got a lot of volunteers there that Saturday. And Rotary Club, I don't know if there's any exchange out here, picked up 7 new members.
Oh, that's
Good.
neat.
I could use
So,
There's 7
so but,
exchange rates.
Snake.
it. And where'd you get this picture of our CEO?
I can't tell.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Item 2 under reports is the auxiliary report. Mr. Rivers, welcome.
Good evening. I rushed back from Bakersfield just to give you the report, so Mark didn't have to.
Thank you. Hey, there's been times where I've flown all the way back from Vancouver to get here, so.
Okay. Well, first of all, we want to thank the hospital for the wonderful luncheon and that they gave for us, and the gifts. Oh my God, they were awesome this year. They gave us T-shirts that say volunteer on them. Everybody fell in love with them. This coming Friday, the 3rd, we're going to have some residents come down and do some shopping, and we're going to give them their very own bag sale. So if anybody wants to come down and observe, come on down and observe. We've been very busy at the thrift store lately with the warmer weather coming. Donations are just piling in, and then there's a lot of yard sales coming up. So the next 4 weeks at least are going to be extremely busy. The Volunteer Expo, we had a great time there. We did hand out a couple of applications, haven't gotten them back yet. Since February, we've already voted in 6 new members. 2 men, one of them's coming up. So that's awesome. And then on the Wednesday, the 12th of June, is our installation of officers. And you're all invited to attend that. It's going to be a barbecue in the park for Flag Day. Okay? And that's all I have.
All right, are there any questions for Cindy?
Can I say the same thing I did about Debbie?
Yes, go ahead.
You guys are doing an awesome job.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Item 3 is the medical staff report. Dr. Finstead is not here tonight. Does he have a report?
Yes, I
Okay.
will be giving that report.
Mr. Forley? You'll be giving a lot of reports. soon.
Surprise, Heidi said to me just before the meeting, so I have a chief of staff report. Infection Control Committee met on April 12th. Committee reviewed a new report, the SNF Infection Control Risk Assessment Quarterly Report, and added it to the regular agenda. Regular quarterly and monthly reports were reviewed. Employee illness and injury, monthly hospital-acquired infection, blood culture, MRSA, AST monitoring, Foley catheter usage, and hand hygiene complaints. At the Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee meeting on April 12th also, committee reviewed and approved 5 policies. Mesa Clinical Pharmacy Hours of Operation, Pharmacy Technician Roles and Duties, Licensee Impairment, Temporary Absence of the Pharmacist, and Surgical Service Timeout. An update to a form was also reviewed and approved, outpatient history and physical examination. In addition to the formulary was reviewed and approved for droperidol. That's a medication we use in the ER pretty frequently. The committee reviewed various monthly and quarterly reports and studies, blood usage, blood culture reports, the CAPS committee meeting minutes, the MRSA AST monitoring, hand hygiene, and Foley catheter usage. The SNF CQI committee met on April 25th. The committee reviewed a new report, the SNF Infection Control Risk Assessment Quarterly Report, and added it to their regular agenda. Reports for antibiotic usage for UTIs and antibiotic usage for wound and respiratory indications were reviewed and discussed. Medical Executive Committee met April 30th, last night. 2 credential files were reviewed and approved for appointment. Dr. Shin from radiology and Dr. Bailey for plastic surgery. 6 credential files were reviewed and approved for reappointment. Dr. Baika, Dr. Matuk, gastroenterology, Dr. Kent for general dentistry, Dr. Finstead and Dr. Gross for internal medicine, Travis Johnson, CRNA for anesthesia. There were 2 of those that were pulled. I don't know. Okay, fair enough. The committee reviewed those same 5 policies that were approved at P&T, the pharmacy hours of operation, pharmacy technician roles and duties, licensee impairment, temporary absence of the pharmacist, and surgical service timeout. In addition to the formulary, the droperidol was also approved at MedExec. A revised form was reviewed and will be sent back to P&T committee for discussion and further revision. A new report was reviewed and will be added to the regular agenda. The IOC quarterly QA report, and then committee reviewed regular reports, plan of corrections, admit times, delinquency rate report, things like that. And that is the chief of staff report.
Okay, are there any questions for Mark regarding Dr. Finstead's chief of staff report? Okay, hearing none, the Chief Executive Officer report is next. Tim is not here. He's been kind of in and out of the hospital the last several weeks. But Mark, I think you have his report as well.
I do. He gave me a fairly detailed report, and most of the items that he is going to discuss I had on my CNO report, so this will be a combined report for my report and his report.
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Is that okay with the board?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
So there was a FEMA grant funding. We were notified about a month ago that the state was receiving $750 million in FEMA grant funding in response to the wildfires earlier this year. The funds were to be made available to the 3 counties hardest hit, but funding would also be considered for non-designated counties and for hospitals requiring seismic upgrading. KVHD submitted an initial application for approximately $19 million to be used to fund our seismic upgrades. Emphasis was given to issues identified by the hospital during its response to the Erskine fire. We were recently notified that our request has met the requirements for projects to be funded, and we have been invited to submit a detailed application for these funds. Due to Kern Valley not being included in the Kern County Hazard Mitigation Plan, it will be necessary for Kern County to submit the application on our behalf. On Monday, we met with Mick Gleason requesting his support for county assistance in this endeavor. We have already reached out to their staff and have begun the application development. The grant would, if successful, fund approximately 75% of the requested funding, with the remaining 25% coming from the district. This opportunity presents the best possible means for KVHD to meet seismic retrofit requirements and necessary building upgrades to provide more efficient private care. I will draw your attention to the fact that this is a grant. It is not a loan or anything else, it's a grant. So we are very hopeful that we can get this thing through. The next thing is behavioral health comments. On Monday, several KVHD staff and concerned behavioral health professionals in this community met with Mick Gleason, Bill Walker, and his staff to discuss ongoing concerns regarding behavioral health needs of the residents of the Kern River Valley. The meeting focused on the need for more transparency as to performance requirements of contracted service providers under extended contracts for our service area, and the need to work more collaboratively with local behavioral providers for coordinated care. Assurances were given that a request for interest would be created soon to determine other potential service providers who might want to participate as part of an RFP process when the contract goes out to bid next year. The meeting is seen as a step forward in working collectively towards our community's health needs and in improving responsiveness to urgent/emergent care intervention. Some of the concerns that were raised were with College Community Services. So what we decided, we would try to help open that up to other sources who may be interested in bidding on that contract. So that is moving forward also. And I might add from my report that the other thing that we found out in response or with regard to the sobering center that I spoke about a couple months ago, they chose Delano as their sobering center, and they decided to not put one up here at Kern River Valley.
That's too bad.
So the SNF annual survey is currently underway. Monday, 8 surveyors showed up at the hospital to start going through the normal annual survey process. 3 of those surveyors left yesterday. The state surveyors, they left yesterday. We won't know their findings until tomorrow, I assume. But I do know that the dietitian left today with a very short list of findings. There's 3 left here doing the federal survey. It was a federal and state survey at the same time. We will hear more about their findings tomorrow, but I'm pretty hopeful and confident that there's not a lot of big ticket items. I'm hearing a lot of things about little things that are easily correctable, and we'll be able to manage that line of correction. So I'm hopeful. Under the legislative update, which is Tim's, one of Tim's comments, Senate Bill 758. This bill is being sponsored by the California Hospital Association in an effort to reduce the seismic requirements on hospitals to focus more on providing care after an earthquake versus retrofitting the entire facility before one hits. Emphasis will be placed on bringing emergency departments to be seismically strengthened. That's simply the comment. Senate Bill 227 is a staffing shortage bill that would fine hospitals who do not meet minimum staffing ratios in spite of there already being a means for the state fine facilities for not meeting compliance. Did that make sense? Okay. This bill would create a $30,000 fine for a first-time offense and a $60,000 fine for each fine afterwards. Currently, CDPH has discretion to determine if facilities are attempting to comply. The new law would be mandatory. On May 29th, in response to this little guy right here, I have contacted the representative for our anti-venom provider, which is CroFab. They're coming out on May 29th to do a training seminar with all of the nurses and the doctors in the ER. They do this every year for us. Their list of places to go to give this information is pretty long right now. So May 29th was the soonest that they could get out here to do that, but we will be having a lunch and learn with our staff to get them trained on CroFab use. And that is my report.
Are there any questions for Mark regarding his report or Tim's CEO report? Yes, Director Bush.
The SNF survey, skilled nursing facility survey. How's our? I know that I am vaguely aware of past surveys, and I've always heard that good things have come out of past surveys. Are we? Have we been on a pretty steady trend over the last few years?
So, I'm not sure I understand your question completely, but we're in a pretty good place. Yes, let me say it that way. We got several compliments from the dietary department or the dietary surveyors about the dietitian and her thorough and complete assessments and her dietary, the way she does her MDSs and the way she completes all of her work. She's very thorough. So we did get a compliment from them regarding that.
Okay.
As far as trending is concerned, Charlie, I think to answer your question, we've been in a very good place these last few years. Yeah.
That's what I thought, and I just, it's just, I just wanted to affirm that what I already thought. So, thanks.
Director Elliott, you have a question?
I do. I have a couple questions for you, Mark. Thank you.
Absolutely.
On the FEMA grant, what kind of time frame are we looking at to complete the application
I
process?
believe it has to be in by August, Chet, or September?
July.
July.
Okay. July
It's a
5.
pretty short fuse.
And, yeah.
Okay. Well, on the mental health thing, I don't understand yet, being so new, what the district's involvement is with the mental health department and why we're involved in their selection process for a vendor up here. What's our role?
Our role was simply that because of our prime project director identifying some really serious, woefully inadequate needs that this community has, and the fact that it could be 5 or 6 weeks from now that a person that she looks at in the ER for them to get an appointment with College of Community Services.
Okay.
And we don't know the requirements that CCS has for meeting their contractual agreements.
So we're just identifying the shortcomings that we're seeing.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what we're
Let me try to add on to that a little bit for you. The situation is, if you'll recall back when, if you're as old as I am, Medi-Cal actually wasn't a danger to self, danger to others type of service. It actually covered 10 days. And mental health services were adults 28-day programs, adolescents 21-day programs, things like that. Well, what the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare if you will, actually specifies that you should be treating your mental health needs or your behavioral health issues at the same level and in the same way as far as energy and cost and all those kinds of things as you do your physical health. So the program in California that actually went to so far as to separate those dramatically, and as it did in some other states, does not necessarily comply 100% with the indications of the Affordable Care Act. So the reason it developed what's called the PRIME program, which we had an actual application and were awarded a grant, if you will, of about $750,000 a year for 5 years, was what we said we would basically do is integrate behavioral and physical health in our system. And once we got approved for that grant, we developed a program and people in the program, and Lisa's the head of our program. Well, what they would do is they would be a resource for our other product lines, if you will, and they would be a resource for a screening type of resource, community care coordinator type of things for this integration. And we've been doing that now, how many years, Lisa? 3 years, okay? And what basically happens is whether the patient presents to a danger, self-danger to others, or whether it's simply a smoking issue, whether it's any kind of things, we then act as the community care coordinator for either sending those people to our services, which we actually have LCSW services ongoing. We actually have psychiatrists. There's 4 psychiatrists doing work here, okay? Telemedicine side. And we also have psychologists, PhD psychologists. So, plus the fact we have other, you correct me if I say anything wrong. The other thing we do is we try to work those people into other community services, including individuals. Like we send some over to our local practitioners, right? As well. So the idea is we have a grant, and we'd like to keep that going and actually expand on it to integrate behavioral and psychiatric services. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. That
But
sounds
what
like a
it
great
has,
program.
what it has unveiled is some shortcomings as far as levels 3 and 4, getting people that level service. We can see levels 1 and 2, but we can't do the 3 and 4, so we refer those to college community services. But sometimes that might be delayed up to 5 or 6
And
weeks.
so the performance that we're seeing just isn't working.
We've just recently been seeing this performance because we've got boots on the ground, I'll say,
Okay.
looking for that.
Okay.
And so,
Thanks. I appreciate the background.
absolutely.
Any other questions for Mark?
I have a question.
Yes, Kathy.
What is our star rating for the SNF right now? It's usually 1 to 5.
I think it's a 1.
It's a 1.
Yes.
And that's considered an upward trend, or?
I'm thinking that because of what we're seeing on this report and on other reports, I don't know how that star rating is found. I don't know.
Okay, so you spoke that you see that we're on an upward trend.
Right.
Sorry.
If the star rating is a 1, that's the lowest you can get.
I only use my own experience with what I see and the satisfaction from the residents. That's what I look at. And so
Okay, I
as far as
understand
the
that, but
star rating is concerned, I
When you
can't.
compare them to a lot in our area too, most of them are 1 and 2s. There's very few that are higher than that, like even in Bakersfield.
Well, I know we can justify up or down whichever way we want to go, but
Sure.
we were specifically talking about the survey in process, and
Right.
so that rating comes from those individuals that do the survey.
That's
Portion of it comes.
a portion of it, yeah.
Staff.
Portion of it does,
MDS, different things factor into that too.
But it's not put together, we're not the ones that put it on the wall, the state is, correct?
They assign us a number and we're required to post it.
Right,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All I know is the residents that I see who are enjoying the meals now, who are commenting in resident council meeting minutes. Susie can attest to that. There's a lot of good stuff going on. I can probably tout Susie's activities department immensely. She's amazing, and she's doing all this bus transportation. We finally got a bus driver.
And I understand that, but that's
So-
not what we were talking about. We were actually talking about survey process, and so that.
Understood.
I
And I think
I don't doubt Susie's. I attend many of their outings and
Yeah.
stuff as a volunteer, so I mean, I know what they do.
So I don't know, I don't know what goes into the rating process, the star rating process. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Is that something you can get information on for us?
Sure, I think I could, yeah, absolutely. I'll have that next month.
Thank you, Mark.
You can go into the. Yes.
One quick question. In Tim's report, did he give any indication as to if he thinks that the SB 758 regarding the seismic changes to the seismic law, if that will pass in the?
He did not.
Okay.
I can help you with that if you want.
Okay. Before you go into your report.
And I don't know where, you want me to start, but what's going on
Just a brief
basically
summary.
is after the RAND analysis, I don't know, you heard Tim talk about the RAND analysis before,
Mm-hmm.
that what that was looking at what a 20-year-old law, SB 1953,
Right. would
create in cost to take care of, and not even at a present value. We're talking about in the B billions, okay? And how many $100 billion of cost. And so there's a lot of people, providers, legislators, unions, everybody's looking and saying, wait a minute, do we really have to rebuild all of these hospital providers to this level because of the Northridge earthquake? Now 20 years later. Not only that, the technology's changed, and should it be something that we have to say, okay, that your hospital has to be able to stand to take care of all of your services, anything that has a patient care base, inpatient, outpatient, etc. So a lot of these hospitals have gone, they're sitting out there now. I just heard of a small hospital up in Bishop that replaced their hospital, okay? And they spent $1,500 per square foot to replace their hospital. Well, what's happening with this new situation with seismic is that the California Hospital Association has been working, I should say, on some modifications to the bill, to the SB 1953 requirements as they have moved forward, okay? So rather than, as of 2030, saying anything that isn't SBC 5 and makes it, we're gonna, they're not gonna be able to operate anymore. Or even in advance of that, depending on whether they've got a waiver. And they also put in what they called 4D, which was a in-between type thing to meet some regulations, okay? So now what's happening is they're saying, okay, we're gonna try to submit a modification to the SB 1953 bill that actually changes, and only the emergency room is gonna have to be modified to do patient care after an 8.0 earthquake, okay? The rest of the hospital, they may be doing this outside in the field or whatever, so the rest of the hospital does not have to meet that standard. I'm not sure if the bill's been introduced yet, but I know it's certainly been discussed. I know that it's been discussed with legislators already ahead of time. It's been discussed with unions ahead of time. It's been discussed with some of the large insurance carriers and things like that ahead of time. And obviously it's going to change dramatically the cost of meeting the seismic requirements. So that's what's going on. Okay, and that's supposed to happen as far as introduction in May. And they're saying that the chance of that being passed are very, very good.
Okay, good.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Was that a quick item?
Okay, we'll go to Charlie, then Bob, and Derek. Okay.
No, I say it seems that the thought process is going through. I mean, since this was deemed back in 1992, and because things have changed, technology has changed everything, they seem to be concentrating a little more. I hear a lot more talk from legislators and lawmakers about, can we take care of our community in the event of an emergency? It's, I mean, if the hospital falls down or doesn't fall down, if your house falls on you, and you're not in Oz, if your house falls on you, can we take care of you? So it seems there's been a lot more talk about, in the event of an emergency, how equipped is the district to take care of the people within the district so that we can stay afloat. And that's what this guy does to make sure that we have redundant systems that we'll be able to do that. And I'm hopeful that that mindset continues within the people that be in Sacramento, so they can make alterations to this. I think it's a little unfair, and Chet's absolutely right. I mean, they're estimating well over $100 billion to do what is mandated at this point. So it's getting to the point of being, can that even be possible? Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Yep, Bob, you have a comment?
Yeah, I've been involved with this since the beginning of 1950, SB 1953. We hope that the bill does pass that limits it to ER. That does currently, at the moment, give us a fallback, because the money requested for the FEMA grant, which is $14.5 million from FEMA and $4.8 million from the hospital for 25%, will actually give us enough money to upgrade build a new ER and upgrade acute care as well. And there's a lot of parameters. The work has to be done in 36 months, though they do grant extensions. So at this point, if we do end up landing the grant, we will be able to do more than just the ER. But if we don't get the grant, because there's always a large possibility that could happen, and the bill passes, we can still meet the minimum criteria, which would be the ER.
Director Elliott, you had
I was looking online on the status of the bill. It was heard in committee by the health committee last week and approved.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to the appropriations committee next in the Senate. If it's approved, then it goes to the assembly.
The full assembly.
Yeah, for their consideration. Well, it goes to the floor of the Senate,
Yeah.
and then over to the assembly. So we can do our part, though. We probably should generate a letter to our assemblyman, Mathis, and to our senator, Grove, and say, we support this, vote for this.
Absolutely.
And so they know our position on this. I don't know, maybe we need to, I don't know the protocol. Do we vote to support the bill, or?
You can do a resolution.
Okay, that's probably a good idea.
As far as the leadership of the hospital, we received a letter from the California Hospital Association with that very thing, requesting we do that.
Good.
Good.
The CHA is very powerful in Sacramento. They don't always win, but it's good to be part of that group because they are very influential.
But I do think that's a good idea. We should probably do a board resolution as another method to tell the state how we feel about the bill. And could we put that on the agenda for next month? Heidi, thank you. Bobby, you had another comment?
I forgot to add one other thing too. And on the letter that we responded to with our notice of intent on the grant, it stated, other counties, as Chet said, but it also stated the seismic upgrades could be included. And then there actually was a substantial caveat about emergency power. And one of the things that I stressed in the NOI was that during the Erskine fire, we found that our emergency generator systems for the hospital were woefully inadequate.
and needed to be completely replaced. So that's probably one of the reasons. It certainly helped in getting that NOI approved.
As far as upgrading the emergency room, isn't the date gonna be moved out to where we don't have to do it as soon?
Well, the date, my understanding of this new bill does not change the date of 2030.
No, it does not.
It does not.
Okay. But it is 2030, not 2022 or whatever.
That is for hospitals that were SBC 1s that didn't get the extensions filed and various things. We did the SBC 2 through the HAZA study. So once you're in SBC 2, it allows you then to file for the extension to 2030.
But the one thing they did put in there, from what I understood from the association vice president that talked about it, is that in a hardship case, and they didn't define exactly what is meant by a hardship case.
Right.
But in a hardship case, there would be they put in two 5-year extensions available.
On the 2030.
On the 2030.
Yes.
But that's all they are extensions, and only in a hardship case that's already been proven as a hardship.
Right. Yes. Okay. That is true.
So John, one other comment?
Yes.
I think we need to move faster than next board meeting, because this will go to appropriations and it'll go to the Senate floor before we meet next month. So if we can request the administrative staff to generate the letter of support to Senator Grove saying we want you to vote for this as soon as possible, because it'll hit her desk before we meet again.
Okay. Good suggestion.
It's already typed up, Ross, all yet.
Excellent. Great. Okay. So that's not a board action. You guys automatic would do that. Okay. Super.
All right, is there anything else before we move on to Chet's report? Okay, hearing none. Chet, your monthly finance report?
Okay, we're going to talk about, for a minute, the month of March. The month of March saw some positive things, uptake from some earlier times in the year, and was very encouraging, but the results weren't quite as encouraging as some of the initial things were. And I'm going to talk about the volumes to begin with. As you know, we actually this year have had and continue to have a very major change with our swing bed inpatients. There have been months this year when we have had no swing bed days whatsoever. In the month of March, we actually had 15 days, that's all, of patients in a bed and as swing bed. It's just really of concern that the kind of patients that would get therapeutic services that would need a swing bed, especially based upon the fact of small hospitals doing that and doing it, having a better reimbursement methodology for swing beds where they can't do that down the hill in Bakersfield. We need to work on that, and I'm going to say that out loud until we had a comment about one of the other departments. But swing beds is even more important. We just got the renewal of the last of our interim work. What happens is, with Medicare, you actually file a Medicare cost report at the end of each year. But a critical access hospital, because it's cost-based reimbursement, has to file a mid-year because the intermediaries for Medicare don't want to have big things, big adjustments, positive or negative. Okay? So they make you file something. So we filed the way we should for our mid-year for 2019, fiscal 2019, and I just, it was my end of last week or this week or Monday this week, I think it was Monday, got the report back from, they had accepted our filing, and they took they gave us the interim rates, and they took our interim rates up because the first part of this year, as you know, we were not doing well, haven't done well with our inpatient volumes. Okay, so what happens when you don't get your costs down nearly as far as your volumes dropping? Your cost per day is going to go up. So our cost per day paid for Medicare has gone from $2,100 a day, or right over 2,000, between 2,000 and 2,100, to $2,500 a day, retroactive to April 1st. Okay? Swing beds is over $2,000 a day for just therapeutic services that you would, a lot of times, down the hill doing a sniff. If you're having IVs or you're having pulmonary rehab, or, you know, things you would do in let's say, I'll use the name, Health South, okay? Those things are basically available here, and those are the things that are going down, which are bread and butter for a small hospital. Most of the small hospitals don't do much in the way of acute care because of the intensity of service that you can get with specialists in a larger hospital. But a swing bed, my goodness, that's what we want. Okay, anyway, the situation there is, now let me just tell you that, and it, as a comparative, I just said they took our reimbursement at $2,500 a day. Guess what our cost is right now because our volume's down? Almost $4,000 a day in our acute care. That's more than Bakersfield Memorial charges for an acute care day just for room and board. Anyway, our average daily census for both acute and swing was 5.1 in March. Year to date for 9 months, it's basically 4.5. So it was up a little bit. That was encouraging. Our SNF was at 54.6 days of the 74 beds that are available. And we've been sitting there, and I will tell you that we've now come full circle for an entire year. A year ago, same month, was 53.6. We've got to do something with our marketing for the SNF. I'm sorry I'm tapping on the table. But I'm going to say that because it's something that we need to pay attention to. The emergency room actually had a pretty good month. We did 658 visits. Anything over 600, what I watch for every day is at least 20 patient average. That's what I want to see. And I don't, usually in the weekends it'll go up a little bit. Sometimes in the weekdays it'll go down a little bit, but a 20-day average. And we're getting pretty close most of the time. But we don't seem to be getting back to our old, probably the first 7, 8, 10 years I was here, we never had a problem being over 20. And then the last few years we've had a problem, 17, 18, there was a drag. So something's got to get us back to the 20. Now, of those total patients that we saw in the emergency room, only 5% of them were admitted. Now you would think, okay, only 5% of the patients admitted. We only need to have 5% admitted? Well, not really, because we're transferring about 12% at this point. Have them go to Bakersfield. You put it in perspective. Our outpatient actually has been growing. We had some positive things there. We've got, and I've mentioned this before, in imaging, Clinical Sierra Vista got rid of their imaging, which was not digital, and we now get all the imaging in the valley. So that's really been in a growth mode. We're pushing hard on the outpatient clinics type services, which is also up dramatically. I mean, we 1,164 visits last year, 1,381 this year. Primary care visits, okay? That's for the month of March only. That's why we're pushing that business, because that business sends the work to the ancillaries as well, okay? So what happens with the ancillaries? We're playing with an idea of making sure they give us the echoes now, aren't we, Greg? So we're talking about some new business, but the idea, and that's where small hospitals can do extremely well, is to not have people go out of town for their ancillary services. Have everything they need in ancillary services available here. Technology is great. Digital is able to be sent over the phone line, if you will, over the line, so that it can be read by a cardiologist or whatever you need. And by the same token, you want more of those people in the valley, just like you do. It's no different. We're trying to serve you people of the valley. Okay, it's a situation where also we talked about psychiatry. Now there's a little bit of surgery in here and a couple other things, but 290 what we call specialty visits in the clinic. And that's not part of the 1381 I just told you about, okay? And we're trying to build on that as well so that you have basically those kinds of services available because they're necessary. So we do between 250 and 300 visits to a psychiatrist or LCSW or psychologist or, okay, a few other types of specialists, telemedicine and otherwise. Another area of that we're trying to push hard is our surgery, okay? We only had I'm not talking about endoscopies now. I'm talking about surgeries done in the surgical suite where I don't care if it's a lump and bump or a more extensive surgery. We had 2 in a whole month. That's 7 last year. We should be having at least a couple a week. And I've always said that, but the idea is getting people used to that thought process and having the availability of surgeons to do the work. We did 27 endoscopies. We did 22 the year before. And that's pretty good because we lost one of the days. Dr. Matuka's still only coming 1 day a month. And if you read your consent agenda, they're also going to start doing work. They're going to lease from us space in our leased building that was Dr. Lee Hold's building. And they're going to be there 1/2 day every week. So it was a week every Tuesday. So they do their surgeries in the morning. And they see, we leased them space to do their office visits. They used to do them down at Seattle Wellness. That's not going to happen anymore. Beginning probably this month. Because the board just approved one with the lease. Okay. Retail pharmacy. Actually, we did more this month than we did in the same month a year ago. And that's a good trend because that has not been there. We did 3,383 prescription fills this month of March. 3,212 in March of a year ago. Now, let's go to the money side for a minute. In the money side, I was really encouraged when I first saw the number. We actually generated $9,662,000 in charges, gross revenue, in the month of March. We haven't had any $9 million months since back in July and August, and way down. And we had a fair number of like $9 million a month in prior years. A year ago it was only 8.1 million. But the mix of the patients, the contractual allowances, the plans that they were in, we pushed us back a little bit because out of the 8.1 million, basically a year ago, 2.2 million was collectible. Out of the 9.6 million, only 2.3 is collectible. And that's a function of the health plans. Now, one of the other things that we have been able to do in most of the months, even when we had a kind of down month, is even though we're in a following year, and even though the inflation factors are in some of the things, we've been able to have operating expenses under slightly because the volume has been under what they were a year ago. Not so in March. Our operating expenses were 2.379 million. A year ago they were 2.287 million. So what was the big difference? The largest difference of all was that contract labor was $64,000 in March of 2018. And in March of 2019, it's $197,000. Guess what? We need to put on our bootstraps and hire more qualified people in your community. We are the largest employer. Employ them. Take the hours and make them work right, but employ the people. Don't bring in somebody else from outside that actually the doctors don't like, that don't really care about your community, they're just here because they're traveling making money. That's a fact. Okay? Okay, so we had a situation where a year ago, and I realized it was, you know, from operations, we lost 84,000. I said, we can do better than that. So my budget was 125, positive. We lost, just from operations, $38,000, even with the 9.7 million in revenue, okay? And we look at our non-operating, okay? Most of the non-operating is pretty close because the interest is just a function of the amortization schedule. And the taxes don't, I mean, they're relatively constant from month to month that we accrue. We did have a difference in that the auxiliary didn't give us really hard any money in that particular month this year, but they did last year. Okay? 30,000 versus 400. Big difference. Okay? Guess what? So it made the loss go. So we lost $47,000 where I thought we were actually going to make a little money. But when I talk about dollars, it's really a function of all these little pieces fitting together. And all the things and I'm trying not to just give you numbers, but to give you whys and things that we need to focus on. I'm going to go to cash, and I'm going to do cash. Actually, it was said to us that, okay, you guys need to do better with your accounts payable. And you know what? That was right. We were sitting there we got up Barbara to about 90 days, 95 days. Tell me that was wrong if I say something wrong. Okay. I said it should have been at least 60. You know what our days are now? Well, if you happen to have this report and you looked on this first page, you would see that our days expense and accounts payable is 53.61. Okay. But when you look at cash, you'll find that what we're doing is playing the float. Ever played the float for $2 million? $2.5 million? That's what we did in March. We started out with $2.5 million float. That's kind of like saying, well, it won't hit the bank, and so I can go out dancing tonight. And so that's what happens. But the situation is that we also, because of the collections, and we had a withhold, that a Medicare withhold, okay, overpaid us from the year before because our volume was up. Now this year, we're going to get the money back because we're cost-based reimbursed and our volume is down. Okay? So we had a situation where we had to reach into our coffers and give another $126,000 just to pay our current bills that we needed to pay. Even playing the float. Our disbursements actually were slightly less than what we had anticipated. I had projected about 2.5 million, and it was 2.3. But even at that, let me go back. I had projected 2.6 in receipts, and it was only 2.2. Okay, so we're now sitting before we look at our reserves that we put into operations. We start out now with a $3.1 million negative, which is basically playing the float. Okay? So the reserves we keep in this aren't very big. And I only pulled out a little bit from the reserve. I have, like, you know, 126,000. In the middle of this, I had expected to have about 1.1 million come in from supplemental programs from Medi-Cal. Well, actually, we had 1.6 million come in. Okay? I then took another, I knew I needed to do the matching. So I said, I didn't think though that we would have such a large amount that we were paying out in operations. So I said, I'm only gonna have to pull about 250,000 out of my reserves out here that I use for matching the federal government, for the federal matching of the supplemental money. I had to pull $1.2 million out of that all of a sudden and put it there. Okay? And that, I mean, thank goodness it's there. But you see how important it is to have things there when you, because today, Barbara, how much money did I take in today just for supplemental? And I know you don't want to tell, but tell them.
Yeah. Tell us, Barbara.
$23.
Several million.
Several million, okay. We would have not have gotten that if I hadn't had that money to put right here and do the federal matching. We would have let several million go away without getting it. So they gave me that money back and they gave me the federal portion that matched it. Real important. That's what cash flow is all about. Okay? It's real important for critical access hospital. We still have $3 million in float. And we probably will again as long as we keep our days at 53. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm going to raise those days, but I'm not going to tell you they're going to be 20 or 10 or 5 because I need that money for this money to come in and for us to sustain ourselves. I hope that explains, and that's my report for tonight.
Are there any questions for Chet? Okay. Go to Cat. Ross, and then we'll go to Catherine.
Go ahead. Okay. So I'm assuming we stay at the 30-foot level, you know, and try not get into the weeds. So, but I gotta ask this question. So with the patient census down,
yes,
why did we hire travelers? Do you make that hiring decision before, and then you have to live with it for a couple months, or why do we have more?
The answer is yes and no, and let me explain that.
Okay.
Okay. There are a number of different reasons why and how you staff. We actually do a daily staffing matrix based upon volume.
You know what? Let me talk offline with you.
Sure.
So, because I don't want to
Yeah, you need to learn.
take all the details here. You know, that's a conversation we can have one-on-one. It's just an observation I had, and then there's this great little diagram.
Well, it's
at the
usually
back.
you'll get it in color.
Okay.
Time, but yeah, that's the executive financial summary.
But yeah, it's great. I was like, all right. But there's this financial strength index at the bottom.
Yes.
And you know, poor is less than 2, and we're at 4.5.
How about that?
What the heck? Is that normal?
Of course not. We have a negative equity. We have for since the 1990s.
Well, part of that.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Part of that is factored in with the Cal Mortgage insured loan. Is that part of it?
Yes and no.
Debt to equity ratio, or no?
Well, yes, it is, but you know, it was us that created the debt to equity ratio. Okay. The project, the 1991 project that built the SNF. You know what the actual application was for how much money?
It was like 12.5, wasn't it?
There you go.
Originally, yeah.
What did it cost?
We're 22, 23.
22 is about right. Okay, so you can't have.
2/3 of what we started
Yeah, got
for.
it. Got
You know, you
skilled.
can't have a cash forecast that says this. You're gonna, you know, you need to borrow this much money, and it's gonna cost 12.5 million, and then spend 22 million and not have a deficit. It's impossible.
So are the factors that go into that number
Yes.
something that decisions were made years ago and we're still having to live with that?
Partly.
Okay. Okay.
Now, there is a page, you don't have it here, but in the finance committee in the packet, that actually compares us to year-to-date, these are ratios now, to last year, to the state, to the feds. I do it every month.
Okay.
Nice page. When you get a chance to look at that.
That's what some of these show, are those comparisons.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a lot to learn. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. No problem. Catherine, you had a
Yeah, I
question?
just, back to the skilled nursing, I had asked this question, I think, last month or the month before. Is there a plan in place to bring the census up?
Not formal plan, that's for sure, that I've seen. There's some intentions, but a viable plan.
Tim had stated at the board meeting, he would give us a written plan on how we're gonna work, a plan
Yes.
of attack.
He has put that together. We're talking with Sally about it. She has prepared a report of how many admissions and how many discharges there has been. I don't have access to that. Tim does have that. As far as building census, we've been doing admissions, but it seems like every time you take 2 steps forward, you take 3 steps back. It's
Well,
constant.
I understand that. I know there was policy, I know because I've done the job. But were policies in place that there were certain things that had to be met every single day to meet that criteria to get the facility filled. I mean, I had to contact X amount of people, I had to contact and fax X amount of facilities to let them know we had how many female beds, how many male beds. I mean, and this was a criteria that had to be met every day so we could get that facility filled. So I don't know, I mean, I know sometimes we update policies. I say we because for the 30 years I've lived in this valley, I feel part of the facility. But and we update policies, but there's some things you don't update if they work. And I just, has anybody looked at those policies to say, this is how many we need to send out, these are the facilities we need? I know we have to take into HIPAA consideration and everything that, but you just need to let people know how many beds you have available. We have 4 males and 6 females. Do you have someone that needs to? And that goes for swing beds also. That's how we kept the swing beds full. I'm just saying, if it's a topic we talk about every month when I'm here, but I don't see the numbers going up. And that's a concern because I know that you have to meet at least 64 residents.
65 is break even, so you know.
Break even.
Yeah.
And I've been coming to these meetings for 6-8 months, and I don't see the growth. And to me, it's very important because we need the facility. I mean, that's why I ran for the board, that's why I come to the meetings, that's why I stay active with residents as much as I can, because we need the facility in order they need us. But I don't know if they know, people outside the county, outside of our town know that we have beds available. I know 3 people personally that have called and requested to be admitted to the facility, and they're not. And that's just my personal, because being a pastor's wife, they call and ask. They know I used to work here, they call and ask. I give them numbers to call, but they're not in here. So our community are driving to Bakersfield. This last one's driving to Arvin. And we have beds. Now, if we don't have staffing, say we don't have staffing, we can't meet it. But they're just
There is a staffing crunch.
And it's nursing. There always is, I know that. But
This is the worst it's ever been that I've seen.
so
That's the bottom line. And Saracoso is struggling to find instructors now. So, if you know any good instructors, let me know, or let them know.
well, I could probably help you out there too, but I'm just saying that it's a concern, and if there's something I can do to help, let me know. If you need someone marketing, I know Deb does a good job at what she does. But I'm just saying, there's people out there that need their loved ones and are trying to get them in here, and we just...
Can you give me those names?
I will ask the families to contact
Yeah, do that. Contact me.
Because like I said, they're going to Bakersfield, they're going to Arvin. And in fact, I drive one to Arvin because she can't drive that far to go see her husband. And that to me is a community, it's a concern.
That is a concern, for sure, absolutely.
So, and I think it's something that I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say we because maybe you don't want me to say I'm part of this facility, but I'm just telling you, we can, well, it's community, but
Yeah.
it's a concern. It's a concern, so.
I think maybe some of those that she's referring to, and I'm a little bit aware, without mentioning names, that might be walkers and things like that. I think, is that a term that you use, walkers, to where they walk around because they don't know where they're at?
Look like dementia patients
Yeah,
or,
right.
yeah.
And
So-
this one, I think they said, I don't even know if this one was this one particular one, but they're not. They're no longer at that stage. But I also know we've talked about a fence for several months since I've been coming to the facility. I was gonna put up a fence to help prevent that.
So let me
but there's
just
no
comment
fence
on the
either.
fence. Bob has got the Oshpod, the plans for that. This is an Oshpod thing. You have to wait for them. There's no hurrying that up, but that fence will happen. Bob, can you expound on that, please?
Yes, where we're at is the plans were submitted to the state, they've been reviewed by the state, they came back with a list of corrections. Not so much on the fence itself, but there has to be a delayed egress function related to right-of-ways to the public right-of-way. So we have met all the criteria. We did have to go meet with the county because we had wanted a 5-foot fence, and the front part of the fence is within a certain distance of the city street, so we had to request that the county allow us to have a 5-foot fence versus a 4-foot fence, and we had to have that in writing before the state would proceed. So that has all been done, it's all been granted, it's back to plan review, and hopefully this time it will come out perfect.
Okay, because I know the fence is important.
Yes, it is.
I've been in visiting someone from acute and watched someone yield from acute twice. So, I mean, we need to look at that issue also, but I'm just saying that, back to my original question is there a plan to help fill the skilled nursing? I know there used to be policies in place that, as staff members, we had to meet to prove that we were trying to get that facility filled. And I just think that, is that something we're looking at? Because if we can fill the facility, we can pay the staff. If we can find them, but
I will say that staffing has come up time and time again. I'd love to be able to offer a great solution. Our local education, with Cerro Coso, healthcare and tech are two of the biggest industries and most successful industries to get a career in, right? But healthcare right now at that level where we need people, CNAs, the glamorous job of being a CNA, it's been very difficult to find training facilities. I know that we had this conversation last year about a whole graduating class of CNAs, and then we were waiting months just for them to get their certification. They'd gone through the curriculum, they'd passed everything that they needed to do, but just for the state to recognize them, okay, you can go to work now. Took so much time.
That's true, and
like building a
hard.
fence.
But living in the community for 30 years,
Yeah.
I can go to Dollar General and see our CNAs working there than being here any longer. For whatever reason,
I'd like to know, I would love to know why they would choose that over being a CNA. I know, because I've known a lot of CNAs over the years, that they do it because they want to be in healthcare, they care about people, and they do it. They get in and they go, I can't handle this. It's not for everybody.
Okay, well, we're really getting off
Yeah, you're right.
the agenda, I'm sorry, but it's a very important, I think it's a very valid point, Catherine. As far as policies go, maybe we should look at it in the Policy and Procedure Committee.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll make a note of
And
that too.
I know specifically the one she's talking about, and we have reached out to those entities looking for candidates that potentially are not wanderers or those kinds of things until we get some more secure environment for them. But yes, and we have hired one-to-one staff to make sure that with those wanderers, they're very expensive. You heard Chet talking about even the one-to-one staff. They're not licensed individuals, and they're not even allowed to do the CNA work, but we've kind of thought outside the box to be able to keep those residents here just for that very reason.
and they're doing that at other facilities, but they're putting those one-to-ones, 2 females in a room, 1 person to watch 2 people. I mean, so they're not just doing 1-to-1, they're doing 1-to-2.
So what if they wander in different
And
directions?
walking with them, so they've been making it work, I don't know.
I love the idea, and we can talk more about it if you like. I certainly am open to anything suggestions you may have. Absolutely.
If you have marketing ideas, maybe Debbie, if you want to, I think it's worth the discussion.
It
So-
would fall under
Social services, okay.
Is Arena still?
Are there any other questions for Chet?
Arena?
Getting back to his finance report before we move on.
Do you need a motion to approve his
No,
report?
no, that goes to consent next month. We have no old business and we have no new business, so under director's comments, we'll start with Charlie and kind of work our way down. Do you have any comments?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody that applied for the open position. Congratulations, Ross. It's a pleasure to have you on board. You bring a skill set that is going to be very welcome on this board. And you know, I know you well enough. We don't know each other well, but I know you well enough to know that you're a very tolerant person to work with and possess the skills that we need. But it was nice to have so many people interested in that position. That was usually it's like pulling teeth. Can you commit to this? You know, and I'm happy that people are involved.
Thank you, Director Bush. Director Parks?
Russ, thanks for coming on board. You definitely look like you're going to be an asset. Just, you know, I know you will be. As far as all the ones that applied, it seems like when I get involved, people say, well, heck, if he can do it, I can do it. so you get a crowd of people.
We do say that.
That's my comment.
That's what I said.
Cassis, any comment?
I'd like to congratulate Ross on his appointment. I'd like to say that keep coming back because you never know. Any day there could be vacancies on the board of directors. So don't give up. Keep coming back and applying. And it's neat. I've been on the board a long time. It's neat to have people that know what is going on in healthcare today and that are trying so hard to understand. It's a very complicated thing. The political, it's used politically by Washington on both sides. There's nothing we can do about that. We are at their mercy. So we zig, we zag, we try. Our executives are overworked, underpaid, as far as I'm concerned. If everyone keeps trying to help what's going on, and this is your community, if you keep trying to help what is happening here, we're bound to be successful. Thank you.
Director Elliott?
Thank you, John. I am thrilled, I'm humbled, I'm honored to be selected for this. Thank you so very much. And I am also excited that there was so much interest in this position in the community. That means we've got engaged citizens, we've got a healthy community, a lot of interest, and with all that interest moving forward, I hope we can do good things with the hospital district as we move forward. So thank you, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Okay. And my only comment again, thank you everybody that applied for the position. I know it was very time consuming, very hard to choose somebody going through all those applications and resumes, but I agree with everybody on the board that it was very nice to see a lot of interest out in the community and interested in the hospital. So welcome aboard, Ross. I'm sure you will be an asset. I also do want to agree with Catherine. I think that's a very valid point, what's going on with the SNF. I think we need to work on that and try to turn that around. And the only other comment that I had, I heard, I don't know if anybody remembers him, but Ned Miller, who used to be the CEO here a long time ago, back in the 90s, passed away recently. He was here from 91 to 95, I believe. So those of you that have been here for a long time may remember him, but just thought I'd mention that in my comments. Other than that, we're adjourned at 7:30. Thank you all for coming.
You probably deserve it.
Yeah.